Hey, what's going on? This is Ish, and in this talk, I'll be doing a follow-up video of my previous talk titled Energetic Cycles, Disillusionment, and Dark Night. And basically, in that video, what happened was I came back from a 1 year hiatus from making talks and really engaging with the world. And I went into a little hermit mode where I spent a lot of my time meditating, reflecting, just doing a lot of inner work because at the time I wanted to reevaluate my life and where it was going. I was too attached to various things in my life, and I wanted my life to look a certain way. And my life was also very superficial at the time, so I wanted to take some time to really explore the depths and do more reflection. So it was during that time I went from a very active and yang energy, which I'll talk about in this talk, to a more receptive yin energy where I was looking inwards. And there's a lot of great benefits actually from that. But now I want to talk to you about the other side of the coin, where my life since then has been very active. I've been, since that time, I've been making a lot of these videos like you've seen here, a lot of topics related to action taking, which is more of the active, yang energy, confidence, the winner effect, cycles of expansion, so expanding out in the world. So making a lot of talks related to that. And I've really been spending a lot of my time engaging with the world. So again, making these talks, hanging out with friends, going to a lot of social events, making a lot of friends, really working on my dating life, going on a lot of dates, and just engaging my time more often. So instead of spending a lot of the time in reflection for meditating, 5 hours a day, I actually cut down my time in meditation, and I'm just like doing a lot. And it has gained a lot of new insights from this period of time where I'm active and out and about. And you can actually even see some of the physiological changes just as a result of taking action and engaging more in the world. So you can see I definitely present more confidently compared to that previous talk, on the energetic cycles of disillusionment, dark night, where it's kind of like, hey, I'm Ish, kind of like scared. So there's a lot of great benefits that come from expanding in the world. And the main thing is that you feel confident. And confidence is a state of action taking where you build this forward momentum where you're not afraid of the world or withdrawing, but rather you're actively engaging with the world. Now, the future is always uncertain, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen. But what confidence does is that it allows you to take action despite of not knowing what is going to happen in the future. So you just take the action anyways. And if you may get rejected or things that don't go your way, you still take action anyways and go forward. And over time, you'll start to get into a forward momentum or forward feedback loop, where as you take more action, you will get some small successes. Now, if you build upon these successes, you will actually get more. This is what is talked about in the winner effect, where as you start to win more wins will come your way. As you start to gain in the world, that actually will be a further feedback loop where more things come your way. And one of the great benefits of taking action and going forward in a forward feedback loop is that you really learn how to break out of situations that may not be favorable in your life. So rather than take a more passive approach where you just sit and wait and react to different events that are happening to you, instead you are, just due to your actions, are influencing the world. So you're actually influencing the outcomes. And you can actually see how you're doing that by simply taking more and more action. And sometimes this yang energy or this thrust of energy of going forward is needed, especially for a lot of spiritual practitioners. You hear this stereotype of this, overly emotional, helpless new age person that gets rattled by very small things. Well, you want to be the opposite of that, because here they have a lot of yin energy, of this receptive energy, which is very emotional and going inwards and just responds to whatever's happening to them. And instead, you're being more of the proactive force and you're shaping the life that you want. So this can be very beneficial. The second great benefit of expanding out in the world and taking a lot of action and being really engaged is that you tap into your reserves of motivation, of optimism. You also become smarter as a result, because you're able to now see future steps in alignment as you take action. So it is like what Rumi, the Sufi poet, once said: when you start to walk on the way appears. So just by taking the initial steps in whatever endeavor that you want to take on in life, in whatever stage you're at in life, you'll notice that when you take the baby steps, the next path or the next thing starts to appear. And this is really speaking to the power of momentum, because as you gain momentum by repeated action, you can actually build something very great that you wouldn't have imagined otherwise if you didn't take any action at all. And another great thing that you learn from a more active and young phase of your life is that you learn to become more resilient, because as you take a lot of action, you're opening a lot of doors, but a lot of them will also shut and you'll get a lot of rejections. So you can learn how to handle rejection gracefully and keep going. But now let's talk about some of the downsides that may come with this over focus on the expansion part of life. So in that previous video where I talked about the different cycles, I used this analogy of a tree. And basically what the expansion part of the two forces of expansion and contraction is, you are growing the branches of a tree and you're growing really high. And this is great, but the tree needs to be supported by a very strong root system which keeps it in place. And this actually comes from the contraction part of things, where you're going inwards rather than going out. And it is through the setbacks and losing attachments that you actually learn. So it's through the losses that you actually become more resilient, rather than what you gain and the success that you have. Because if you're all tree but no root, you get knocked over very easily. And this is also why you don't want to expand at a very high rate, more than you're used to, because your nervous system is just simply not ready for it. And you can see this in a lot of people that made it big, a lot of one-hit wonders, celebrities, lottery ticket winners, how they achieve a lot of success more than they can handle, and they're simply just not ready for it, and they often self-sabotage. So on a journey in life, you want a mix of both expanding and then an equal measure of contracting, where you go inwards. And another potential drawback that can happen if you are overly focused on this expansion side of life is that you can get caught up in attachment, like I mentioned. You get caught with the successes, and you lose that spiritual grounding, like I mentioned. And you also lose the love for the action itself. So the key insight that you can get from an expanded part of your life is that you learn to take action, but you also enjoy the processes itself. So the process of making different decisions. So for example, for me making this talk, this is simply a process of what I'm doing. But now if I'm like, okay, how is this video going to do, or how is this talk going to do? How many views is it going to get? Is this as good as my previous talk? So I start to compare. Then I've now started to focus on the outcome versus the joy and the love that comes from simply creating. So you want to make sure that when you're taking action, that you orient yourself to the action itself rather than focusing on the outcome. And this is talked about in a lot of the spiritual texts. For example, the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna talks to Arjuna, the charioteer, and he tells Arjuna that you are only entitled to the action itself and not the fruits of your actions. So again, just the process of the action, but don't be caught up in how things are going to be, because again, you're getting attached. But as humans, we still have to take action in the world, and this is what the expansive part of your life can teach you. So I've talked a bit about the cycle of expansion and also cycle of contraction, but you'll notice that I use the word cycle because it is a phase and a wave that comes and goes. And this is also correlated to spiritual paths as well, where you'll notice that your energy is very high one time and then it goes down. This is talked about in the Buddhist insight stages, for example, where there are 16 insight cycles that you'll go through. And the cycle which is correlated with the most energy is the cycle of arising and passing. Sometimes it has its equivalent to Kundalini energy if you've practiced in the yogic tradition, where you experience a rush of energy and you're like, wow, what is going on? And you see visions, and you can get by with less sleep, and you almost seem manic to a lot of people. This tends to happen when you start to experience this rush of spiritual energy. This is very similar to the rising and passing, but a lot of people get stuck here. And what people don't tell you when people are often talking about the Kundalini energy, a lot of Western yogis, they talk about how they experience a Kundalini opening. What they fail to tell you is that after that comes this huge crash in energy. And the stages after arising and passing are fear, misery, and disgust. So, not very appetizing titles that come, after this great rush of energy and ecstasy. But this also alludes to how when your energy goes really high up, the natural progression is to go down and to lower the energy. And this is again the wave of contraction and contractive energy. So you do need both. And how do you know when it's time to go inwards? You'll naturally learn as you meditate more and start to be open and receptive to nature and also yourself when it's time to look inwards. But here are just some signposts I've noticed. If you're riding this wave of expansion, you'll notice that uh, you'll start to get a bit too caught up, like I mentioned. So you get a bit too attached to things in the world. You'll also maybe gain a sense of overconfidence. So confidence is good, but it starts to morph into overconfidence and arrogance. I've definitely experienced that. So I'm like, oh, maybe I need to take a step back. And the main thing is also you start to want things a bit more and you're clasping onto things. And then you also get a bit too swayed by what is happening in the world. So again, this is a good calling to look inwards and to also reflect and go deeper. Because if your life is now starting to take on this extreme yang energy, which is very outward and superficial, you then need to explore the depths. And this is again where you can start to go inwards, reflect more, spend more hours a day meditating, going inwards. And from that, you'll also gain some new insights. So for the next cycle that comes in, when you start to expand again, you'll you'll bring with you some of the things that you've learned through that period of contraction. So these cycles are, almost you can think of like seasons where you have summer and then, after that's done, you have fall and then it goes down to winter and then, it goes back to spring and goes up and down and up and down. So you can take with you when you're highly intuitive some of the lessons you've learned from your summer of expansion and then also from the winter of your contraction. And both have its valuable lessons. So I hope you found this helpful. And now some tips again on if you want to start to get into the expansive energy is to tap into your yang energy. So go out in the sun more if you are in a place that's sunny, start to take action, start to exercise, start to socialize. So here what I'm pointing at is more of an outward expansion where you're engaging in the world, being active, being, it's associated with light, brightness, doing more activity, confidence, action taking. And then you'll know when it's time to leave this wave of energy, when it's time to again go inwards. When you've become too attached to activity, you need to restore the reserves of your energy to go deeper, to be less attached by the things of the world, of material success, and then call inwards and gain some of the insights from detaching and taking some time off, creating silence, creating space, being quiet, exploring the dark rather than the light. And both cycles of your life will have these incredible insights, which you can then use to serve humanity at large. So, hope you found this helpful. Thank you.